needed activity under the GIZ project. The committee would want to find out what is it that was a problem for you to fail to execute all GIZ programs on time, because I'm sure you had a program on how you intended to execute these activities. What is it that you encountered? What frustrations did you encounter for you to fail to execute these activities? Chairperson, I submit.
Honorable. And as to the one, Acting Director to speak. Acting Director of Governance, you can respond to questions.
Honorable Chairperson, some of the challenges or delays that contributed to this returning of the part of the funds to the donor were to do with some of the length procurement processes that we had to undertake in procuring the printing of these documents.
Okay. So progress, honorable members. We go to compensation and awards. Honorable Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Madam Chairperson, the ministry has thrown this blame on the Minister of Finance. They are saying they are not being funded adequately. So I thought if Minister of Finance can help this committee understand where we have got these challenges, looking at the interests which come with these funds when not cleared in time.
Accountant Jen.
Thank you, Chair and Honorable Member, for that question. As submitted by the PS, Finance is trying to dismantle the arrears that are there and that have been accumulating over time. As evidenced by the submission, Ministry of Finance is trying to increase and has increased the allocation for dismantling this debt, and as you can see, the figure moved from 500 million in 2023 to 703 million in 2024, up now to 772 in 2025. That's evidence, Honorable Member, that Finance is indeed trying to dismantle the areas that are there. Apart from that, we have seen from the budget allocation that was given to Ministry of Justice that again Ministry of Finance is trying to fund 100% of the budget's allocation that is given. As you can see, the funding was at 99.9% for the year 2023. I submit, Chair.
Honorable Duck.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Controlling Officer, the committee would want to find out, because if you look at the sums here, they are quite huge, and these are being financed by the taxpayers' money. These are people's monies. We want to find out as the committee that these compensations, you are saying that they are emanating from court judgments. As a ministry, do we contest some of these cases that result into this compensation? Are you adequately in terms of what is your adequacy, or what is your capacity in terms of human capital, in terms of legal representation to challenge some of these court cases? Is it just out of default judgments, or basically you contest some of these cases that cause this compensation? The committee would want to know really if really you have got the capacity to challenge some of the cases that result into compensation. I submit, Madam Chairperson.
Yes, you can respond to the question. Honorable Member, have a question? Okay.
Honorable Chairperson, through your permission, I'll ask the Deputy Chief State Advocate to answer the question.
State Advocate, you can respond to that question.
Thank you, Chair. We do contest the court judgments. A very small fraction are from default judgments, and usually the default judgments as a result of delay in getting instructions, or clients giving us the instructions, that's when we usually get the default judgments. But we do have the capacity, especially now that we've decentralized to the provinces, and we have lawyers in the provinces attending to those matters in the provinces. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mai, then Honorable Mwira.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairperson. Clients delaying to give you instructions, and definitely the blame is not supposed to come to you, but now you are caught up because of clients delaying to give you instructions. So as a ministry, what measures have you come up with to ensure that these funds which government is accruing as a result of negligence by your clients are dealt with by the same clients and not Minister of Justice? Are you having that thought to deal with this matter?
Honorable Mwira.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think firstly to the Minister of Finance to claim or to say or justify that now the allocations have been increasing, chairs a committee to express concern, because for example in 2023 at the beginning of the year the Minister of Finance knew that the outstanding balance was 3.3 billion kwacha. Out of 3.3 billion, then 500 million is allocated. This is a very small allocation. Even the increments from 500 to 703 to 772 is still not going to be good enough to reduce, to reduce this outstanding amount. So I think Minister of Finance needs to consider significantly this allocation. That said, Chairperson, the controlling officer, in your response, you have mentioned that in your response on the compensation and awards, you've mentioned that all payments are made at the discretion of the compensation and awards committee. The committee would like to find out what this discretion is, because, Chairperson, some of these compensations have been in public domain. Obviously the total amount outstanding includes very, very old awards which people have been on the queue waiting to be paid, and the public has also been aware of recent awards and compensations which clearly are gotten out of the way by way of payments. So how does this discretion work that probably recent awards are paid and old awards that have been pending still remain outstanding? I submit.
Yes, can respond to the two questions.
Thank you, Chair. The first one, what measures do we take for these debts that are still outstanding? What we do through you, Chair, is to make aware of the ministries of these outstanding amounts, and also request for any challenges from them if there are any forthcoming, and also we make them aware of the judgments that have been entered into, so that we bring it to their attention. The other one, Chair, the issue of discretion for the awards. The committee, Chair, like we have mentioned, is deliberates on the compensation and awards. Through that, they are able to come up with the ones to be awarded.
Honorable Daka.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Yes, I think we need clarity, especially on issues to do with these clients who delay to give you instructions. I mean, we would want to find out what is it that you have, as a ministry, what is it that you have done as a ministry that would ensure, or that would see to it that such type of reckless behavior or laissez-faire kind of an attitude whereby you need to quickly give instructions and you delay. I mean, what primitive measures have you put in place to ensure that we put it to a stop? because government is losing a lot of money. If you look at these figures, we need these monies where it's needed most. You know, as a country, we have got so many challenges, and these are public funds. We can't be wasting money because somewhere, somehow, some client or some staff in government are not doing their job. We want to find out, as a ministry, what is it that you have put in place to ensure that you put a stop or reduce some of the occurrences which result into or which leads into compensation. I submit, Madam Chairperson.
Honorable Mnyim.
Thank you, Chair. PS, I just want to know from when you look at these outstanding amounts under review, the period under review, it's not much that was accumulated, but I'm trying to understand the discretion of this committee. From as far back, how old are these? Some of these. What's your oldest compensation? They date from as far as when? Thank you, Chair.
Maybe before I respond to the two questions, PS, maybe explain to this committee the role of the Compensation and Awards Committee and how the selections are done for payments, so that we understand, and then you respond to the two questions.
Thank you, Chair. For the role of the committee, may I ask Deputy Chief State Advocate?
Chief State Advocate can respond to the question.
Sorry, Chair, she doesn't sit on the committee. Director Finance sits on the committee.
But knowing the role, you don't need to sit. As an officer in the ministry, you need to understand what is the role of this committee. Even if I don't work for Minister of Justice, if you explain to me, I'll be able to explain to another person to say what is the role of this committee and how is the selection done for payments. It's just something you need to understand. You don't have to be part of the committee. Even you PS, you have to know. In fact, you are supposed to know what is the role of these people and then what are they doing. PS.
Thank you, Chair. The role of the Compensation and Awards Committee, Chair, this is the committee that does sit to provide the compensation, those that have been compensated and the ones that have entered into consent judgments on behalf of the Attorney General's office. So they are compensated once the judgments are done, then they are compensated, then the committee sits to award those monies.
So you can respond to Honorable Daka's question. Yes.
Sorry, Chair. There was a question.
Maybe Honorable Daka can repeat the question.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. What the committee would want to find out is what measures have you put in place to ensure that these clients, the clients you referred to, make sure that they give you instructions in time so as to avoid issues of getting into default judgments, which is costing our country a lot of resources. Because we heard, she admitted, the state advocate, they admitted that there are cases indeed that cause compensation as a result of default judgments. So what is it? What punitive measures have you put in place? Because we assume these are civil servants who are causing all these default judgments, or the government institution, so to say. So what is it that the minister put in place to ensure that we put such kind of act to a stop, or we minimize them, or a deterrent of some nature to ensure that we avoid unnecessary leakages or unnecessary loss of public funds due to such kind of eventualities? I submit, Chairperson.
Yes, you can respond. And in your response also there was a question to do with discretion, so you have to respond to those questions.
Through you, Chairperson, and to the honorable members, we have actually been writing to these ministries to ensure that they give us the information. But perhaps through you, Chair, we need also to be aggressive on this matter and also engage them on a one-to-one other than just writing to them. I submit, Chair.
The issue of discretion. There was a question from Honorable Mwira. Honorable Mwira.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, indeed. Maybe, Chair, allow the Director of Finance who sits on the committee to tell this committee how this discretion is done, especially consider who gets paid first, depending on when the award was done. So you see, the Director of Finance sits on the committee. Maybe he can tell us what goes on there, how they use this discretion.
Yes, the Director of Finance. Just to, as a leader, here I have a document that have people from way back 1986 who are not yet paid, but we've heard of people who've been paid with recent compensations. So when you are responding to that, combine the question.
Thank you, Chair. Basically, the compensation committee sits whenever we receive funding from the Ministry of Finance. And what they do is to approve the payments. So there's a system which they use. It's not only discretion, but they follow order. And that order moves from maybe 1 to 1 million. All those payments that are below 1 million, they are paid in that category. Again, from 1 million to maybe 3 million, those within that category, they are cleared. The purpose is to reduce the accumulation of debt from those who have very little to those who have huge amounts, because there are people who have got huge amounts, especially in dollars, as you have already seen. So that's how the payment is arranged, and that's how it is approved. In fact, when we talk about discretion, they don't necessarily look at who to pay, but they look at the order in which they are falling. I submit, Chair.
But Director, from public school of public opinion, we've heard people getting like 2 million, and then we have cases for 1986 over 500,000, they're not yet paid. So can you justify your submission? Honorable Daka.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. You know, this is a committee of facts. We don't speculate. Are you sure you can provide evidence that you have been following that criteria that you have just elaborated? Put papers on the table so that you can verify that indeed that's the criteria you have been following, because just like the chairperson has alluded to, there are people who have very small compensation amounts that haven't been paid, but you have paid people with huge sums. It's in public domain. We want to know, actually, by way of you providing evidence on the table here, can you provide evidence to justify what you have just given the committee? We don't, this committee doesn't rely on speculation. I submit, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable. Honorable Mfalari.
Yes, Chair. Chair, the answers are not satisfactory. They come. Could they come out clean on why recent cases or later cases are being paid? They are not coming out. That director should come out very, very clean. And further, Chair, on the default and concept judgments, I think let them also come out clean on that one. Is it true that it's only the client that they are putting blame on, and like the lawyers that are supposed to appear in court? We have had issues, and we have seen before. You go to court,
System. We can't hear you, Honorable. Honorable Wamnyima.
They are not
The network is bad.
Chair, just to buttress what Honorable Mfalala is trying to say, this criteria you've explained nothing of order, so there's nothing you're explaining. Some of the people have died who should have gotten this money, and it's unnecessary to follow an order which you can't explain. Recently you pay. From 1986 you're not paying. So the committee that sits, which you sit on, what informs your payment criteria? Can you be clear on the criteria?
Director of Finance through the PS, you can respond to those questions. Give us answers.
Thank you so much, Chair. In the first place, I would like to mention here that we don't have any debt which is outstanding as far as 1986 as at now. What the system that we have put in place is helping us so much to see that we are clearing debt. And when we talk about payments, I mean debt outstanding amounting to 500,000, this is an outright payment we pay, except those debts that are amounting to maybe 5 million and going up. Those are the amounts that are outstanding now. Then
about the Director of Finance, Honorable Stark.
Madam Chairperson, we are referring to a paper that there are 1980 something compensations which are still outstanding. To that effect, is the director in order to refuse that there are no outstanding compensation as way back as the 1980s? Madam Chairperson, is he in order to actually reject facts as they are laid on paper in black and white? I submit, Madam Chairperson.
Okay, before I read this document, Office of the Auditor General of the Court of Justice, financial year ended 31st details of plaintiff, lender and baton versus Attorney General case number LAT 49/2014.CA what date of judgment January-July 1986. We also have others for 2009, 2010, 2007. They are here. So, Director of Finance, can you withdraw that statement of saying that we don't have cases as far back as 2086, because this is a document, 1986.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to withdraw and wish to apologize to the committee for misleading statements. But however, I wish to the cited cases of big amounts, huge amounts, which the allocation that we are given per year cannot even pay. And that's why when I talked about the criteria, I was talking about reducing those who have small amounts, and then we remain with those with huge amounts. Because when we talk about the cited cases, they are over and above the allocation that we receive from the Minister of Finance. I submit, Chair.
So in short, we are telling this committee that those cases with huge amounts will never be paid. They will never be paid. And they've never been paid. So why else still holding on to the cases? And they know what is your role of helping your clients. PS.
Through you, Chair, they will be paid. We have to commit to paying all the outstanding monies.
Honorable Wamnyima.
Chair, PS, your committee, the committee at this compulsion has no criteria. What assurance that are you giving us to be? Because you see, much as we understand that funds are not allocated adequately, you have no proper criteria to pay these people. We are not understanding how you select. So the more you are owed, the more you are disadvantaged, which is a great breach because you are at a greater loss. You know, so I think as a committee, it would be very, very pertinent for this compensation and the awards committee to have compensation guidelines. You cannot operate a committee without guidelines on how to, you know, the guidelines cannot be neither here nor there. It must have clear stipulated guidelines which should satisfy anyone who feels aggrieved.
Honorable Mukumbi.
Controlling officer, we as a committee, we're a little bit worried on the interests that are being accrued here. Your submission and also the General's report here states that initially, when you got the kwacha values there, as of 31st December 2023, the amount was 700,000 plus, 707. Now, this amount increased due to interest levied on such an amount to 1.6 billion. Going by what is explaining here, when you look at the dollar also there, it also keeps going up and up. If nothing is done, this amount from 1 point something would reach somewhere around 3-4 million in the next 2-3 years. So what are you doing as a ministry? Are you revisiting some of these cases, probably renegotiate, agree? Judgments are there, yes, but we've seen situations where some ministries would renegotiate and pay off. And like, especially on the part of interest, and like the way things are, do you really have a plan? I know the ministry is here. Do you have a concrete plan in settling all these areas so that at least they are minimized? Chair, I submit.
Yes, can respond to questions? Or
Maybe
before you respond, Honorable Daka.
Chairperson, I wanted just to underscore or emphasize what Honorable Mfara was trying to say. I heard him talk about issues to do with this consent or default judgment. He was trying to say that the blame shouldn't only be, it's not only the client. He was saying that sometimes you go to court, there are no lawyers from government, from Attorney General's chambers. Actually, most of the cases, what he was trying to say that it's as a result of failure by the ministry to send legal representation to courts when these cases are happening. He says he has the situation where he has experienced himself to say where he goes to court, the people who have sued government find themselves they find themselves alone in the courts of law. So the courts have no option apart from actually passing some of these judgments. So he was arguing to the fact that it's not all about delay in instruction from the client. In fact, the blame actually, much of blame is due to failure by the ministry to send the legal representation when these cases come before courts of law. I submit, Madam Chairperson.
Please respond to the two questions.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, for beginning with the immediate past question on the lawyers, whether they attend to court issues or not. Chair, they do. We have our Deputy Chief State Advocate here who can attest to that. They are supervised by the Attorney General's chambers and they do attend court at all times. Sometimes we have these court cases in the provinces and they are frequently going through to attend the court sessions. May I just ask our Deputy Chief State Advocate to add to what they do and how they do it in terms of attending to court cases.
Deputy State Advocate through the PS can respond to the question.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, yes, in the past there were issues of lawyers not attending, but that has stopped happening because we've employed more advocates. I can actually confirm that in the superior courts we actually do have 100% attendance. We may have a few hiccups in the High Court, but lawyers do attend to their matters because they are heavily supervised by myself, the Chief State Advocate, and the Attorney General and Solicitor General. And then maybe I could also just answer on the measures that we've put in place for the delay in getting instructions. We basically write to the clients and we also call them, do follow-ups through phone calls, but if they're still not forthcoming, we cannot file anything into court without their instruction. And that's how we end up having default judgment and to the controlling officer with either a witness appearing or not receiving instructions, and then it's up to the controlling officer in the particular ministry to deal with their officer. Thank you, Chair.
There was another question.
Yes, in addition, Chair, in the last 3 years or so, we've had Treasury Authority to be able to recruit more lawyers. This is why we are also in the provinces through you, Chair. There was a question on whether we have a plan or a plan to dismantle the debt. May I ask, Chair, through you, our Principal State Advocate, Mr. Mlonda, on this one? Okay.
I think the best person this is to do with monies should be the Director of Finance. He's the one who should have a plan in his office on how he can dismantle these areas. Maybe before he responds, Director of Finance, I have this case which had the original amount was 707 million. Then the interest is 964 million plus. Now it's at 1,671,500. So now, considering this PS as a government, are we reducing the outstanding balances or we are increasing? Then now the Director of Finance, you can respond with the question which was given to you by the PS.
Thank you so much, Chair. In the first place, let me speak with the figures where you are saying the interest, because of the interest the figures are increasing. Yes, we as a ministry have no control over interest accumulation, but also we have no control over funding that can reduce this interest. Then further, when I talk about the plan that we follow now, we felt that maybe it's the best plan that could be followed, because we are catering for those with small amounts, even those with huge amounts.
Honorable Mim.
Chair, the Director of Finance shouldn't talk about the plan. There's no plan. And one thing that we must inform PS, they have control on interest. If you delay to pay, if you are delaying to pay someone and you are paying people with small amounts, that grand sum, the bigger total, will increase. Are you getting the point? So you may have legacy payments that are exponentially increasing because they're saying it's too big, so we pay the small. The bigger it is, the bigger the interest. So why don't you have guidelines as a committee in the manner in which you are dismantling this state? Because you are assisting government in accruing instead of dismantling. Your lack of a plan in the manner in which you pay is actually increasing this chair. So if they say no, we'll pay the 600, this bigger one will leave it. The bigger one has an interest.
Madam Chairperson, just to add, I mean, just to add on top of what Honorable Mnyima is talking about, in simple terms, it's like you have got all these are just amounts which you have accrued. Why don't you dismantle debt based on the time of acquiring the debt? Because interest has got one of the elements of interest is time. So the more the time it takes for you to pay, the higher the amount you are going to pay. You see, so if you have got it, let's say you have got 500 million, which was accumulated in 1986, it's better the same amount of money, no matter how little you have, if you had the plan, is to reduce that amount, which has got a higher time factor. Because that time factor, when it's factored into the equation, it will generate more interest than the ones that you are accumulating of recent times. So we are saying the same budget that you have, why don't you start reducing the older amounts, no matter how big they are? Because it's logical to do that than to come and pay small amounts which you accumulated yesterday. It doesn't help government. This is wasted expenditure. You need to sit down. What the committee is trying to say, sit down and plan on how you are going to dismantle this debt. Your submission clearly shows that you have got no plan whatsoever, because the plan